Dapper Labs is going to be a large for-profit corporation, but that doesn't mean that these open networks can allow all kinds of different products and services to be built. So it's really about what the entrepreneur wants, and we want to be able to support our community no matter what, whether it's with dollars or tokens or technical resources
So welcome to another session at Diffusion Live. This time we've got the one and only Roham of Dapper Labs. Welcome, Roham.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So we obviously had to have you. We're very lucky to get some great keynote speakers and guests every time we do a Diffusion. We've had Joe Lubin, we've had CZ, but given 2021 is looking like what it is, there's only one person we could have got on. So thanks for being available. It's a great pleasure to have you on.
It's an honor to be here.
So I was thinking about the last time we spoke face-to-face anyway, or through Zoom or whatever it is. And it was in July 2020. You came on the Founders of Web3 podcast, and the world was really preoccupied then with, it was a summer of DeFi food farming, right? Nobody was really interested in NFTs other than you, perhaps, and a kind of very small cabal of collectors that kind of stuck it out since 2018 when everyone else went off and got distracted. And here we are now, fast forward to, what are we, April 2021. Dapper Labs is valued at over 2.6 billion, making you the first NFTs unicorn. So firstly, congratulations on what is an amazing, not even a year.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So both within Dapper Labs and in the NFT space more generally. But so it feels good.
So if I'm kind of doing the math right, you've raised about $51 million now through a couple of rounds from a who's who of investor. I think it's safe to say you've definitely concluded a Hollywood round. I was trying to write down all the names and I just gave up after one point. Right, it's kind of insane. So you class the latest round as a Series B, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we had raised about $50 million before this round. This round collectively was about 305, and so 6 times more than we raised in the history of the company. With Dapper Labs, given how we came out the gate with CryptoKitties, but the whole crypto space was somewhat early, we ended up raising 4 different rounds of capital, more sort of from the same group of investors as we achieved technical milestones. And then, this was the moment where we sort of proved that what we've been talking about for 3 years is true. And so that's what catalyzed the sort of the larger growth round.
And were those milestones preset, like with these various parties, or they're kind of just obvious milestones?
I wouldn't say they're obvious at all. I mean, if you dial back to sort of end of 2017, beginning of 2018, when we started CryptoKitties, it wasn't clear where the challenges were going to be. I mean, we knew 48 hours after launching CryptoKitties, we knew Ethereum wouldn't scale. Because the network was breaking down, but it wasn't clear, can we make it scale? Do we work with a layer 2 solution? Do we partner with any one of these other sort of blockchains that are coming up? And we spent a whole year and a half just trying to build on top of Ethereum. So it was more of a question of we did hit some roadblocks, but we always found a new way through. And so when we, for example, essentially failed at trying to do what we wanted to do on top of Ethereum, we actually at the same time had finalized the early specifications for Flow blockchain and started work. Well, back then we called it Bamboo, but eventually what became Flow. And we ended up working with advisors like Dan Bonet at Stanford and others to sort of go through and build the technology from the ground up, essentially. So Milestones kind of shifted because the original goal was to try and make everything work on Ethereum.
Yeah, and so as you say now, total of 305 million in financing, or is it 305 plus 51? I get lost in the numbers. Yeah,
exactly. It was like 51.6 plus 305 0.4 or something like that. So it's 357 total.
Wow, yeah, that 0.4 is important, and you've got Coinbase Ventures, Samsung. I mean, really strategic list of investors, right? So not just VC, classic VC, Coinbase Ventures, Andreessen, but also Samsung, Warner Music Group, as I mentioned, several prominent investors, including NBA players, both kind of retired and present, and so I guess, you know, for those that don't really understand, or they've only really ever operated at an early stage startup phase, you know, what do you need $305 million for? And you know, that might sound like a crazy question given the scale of ambition, but you know, what's that war chest going to enable you to do that you couldn't have otherwise done?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, I mean, everything gets more expensive as the company scales, so there's that. But look, we're barely scratching the surface, even with what we want NBA to be, NBA Top Shot. You know, we released NBA Top Shot as you know, we're still in beta. We have a lot of work to do to come out of beta. We have a mobile game in the works that's going to bring the magic that you see on the web to sort of free to play mobile, where people can carry their whole collections in their pockets. And then we want to deepen the experience between the online world and the offline world, whether it's teams, player engagement, you know, in arena benefits, whatever it is. So NBA Top Shot alone is a huge multi-year effort for us in terms of getting to where we think it can sort of really redefine the fan experience. And then we want to bring that same magic to other leagues. You know, that's not about copy pasting NBA Top Shot. It is about working with players, fans, and the leagues directly to make every new product we do be as authentic and endemic to the fan experience as Top Shot is. So, you know, and then that takes, you know, we have to build independent teams to do each of those things. And then lastly, it's about helping the community have even more success on top of our platforms and tooling, whether it's the Dapper wallet, whether it's the Flow blockchain, which is open source. We're funding companies directly, you know, more out of our profits than out of the monies we've raised. But we set up a small internal venture fund called Baller Ventures, and we're making, you know, small investments. But more importantly, we're helping people kind of go through, helping creators become entrepreneurs, and you know, take their visions and their technologies and their artistic talent and their networks and resources, and figure out, well, how do I make it a business? And should it be a venture-backed business? Should it be a bootstrap lifestyle business? Should it be a token business where we actually exit to the community? And all of that is perfectly fine. You know, Dapper Labs is going to be a large for-profit corporation, but that doesn't mean that, you know, these open networks can allow all kinds of different products and services to be built. So it's really about what the entrepreneur wants, and we want to be able to support our community no matter what, whether it's with dollars or tokens or technical resources or whatever it is.
So you talk about NBA Top Shots as in beta, but it's done over $500 million in sales. So that is one hell of a beta. And that's in P2P sales, right? So you've had $35 to $40 million of pack sales. Can you talk us through the dynamic there? Because that's like a significant amount of secondary market liquidity and sales versus the primary sale when compared to a lot of other kind of NFT asset classes, like kind of high-end blue chip art and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's honestly really important for an NFT economy to be sustainable in the long run, is for there to be a healthy secondary market where new people can come in and very easily be able to engage with the economy, whether they're too late or whether they sort of show up on time for the drop. So NBA Top Shot's design is, you know, 24/7 marketplace with full transparency on every single asset from its creation to every single transaction that has been made in history. And so obviously now there's less than 6 months of data, but you know, we want someone to come in 10 years from now, 50 years from now, and be able to see every single transaction because it's recorded on the blockchain. And that level of transparency just doesn't exist in the real world. So we're in the physical world. And so we focus very much on, you know, creating packs that are in high demand. They're they usually orders or an order of magnitude less in supply than there's sort of demand for them. And then when people get their packs, they sometimes get the things they want, and they sometimes don't get the things they want. And so they can sell what they got and exchange it for the assets that they wanted, whether it's the players they care about or the teams they care about, or the things they need to complete their full collection, that sort of thing. But I think the health of the secondary market is and the volumes there is A, really important to any NFT economy, and B, a good sign of sort of how low friction flow blockchain is, because you can sell a Topshop for $1 and pay 5 cents in fees, whereas you can't do that on Ethereum, and you can't do that with USPS either, the US Postal Service. So that's the low friction and sort of the high throughput, low cost is, I think, the biggest catalyst here, where it's we do more transactions in 24 hours than we did in a year with CryptoKitties.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see. And you mentioned, some other sports franchises, whether that's the NFL or LMB, and it's great to hear that you're kind of working with them very carefully in creating bespoke things that work for that particular sports franchise. But you mentioned something earlier about play to earn, and I think that's obviously going to be one of the big strengths of a custom built NFT blockchain, is that you can allow for effectively freemium kind of games, where you can enter the game and you don't necessarily have to buy in, but you can kind of earn as you play. Could you talk us through some of your ambitions around free to play and play to earn in a gaming context?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important. I mean, just one thing to be clear, I didn't say or didn't mean to say that we or confirm or deny that we have anything, we're working on anything specific with any specific major league. But besides that, so look, modern consumer apps, modern consumer websites are all free to play. The most successful consumer products need to let users play around with them before asking them for money. I mean, the concept is sort of almost obvious, but nothing in crypto is free to play or has been, because it costs money to use these ecosystems, costs money to create an account, it costs money to buy your first thing. And even in Topshot, there's nothing you can do without spending money first today. And so it's very important to us to let people interact with the community, interact with the ecosystem, start learning the ropes essentially before we ask them to spend money, and then even afterwards, we need to guide them on, this is the first step, this is the second step, these are the dynamics, and we don't do that really well. And these are some of the things that I mean with where in beta is, it's you have to figure it out for yourself, whereas eventually we're going to do much better in terms of tutorials and so on and so forth. I lost the your original question.
But well, it was kind of play to earn, free to play, and you were talking about
on play to earn versus free to play. So free to play, we believe it's absolutely critical, and you need to give people a way to get started. In terms of play to earn, I think it's important to think of it as a digital economy where people are providing services into each other, and some people are providing the service, some people are paying for the service, rather than a sort of free lunch in a way where there's things people can do to get money, but that's not actively adding value to someone else in the player ecosystem. I think that's how I think of like healthy play to earn economies, is where the person that's putting in the dollars that the other person is taking out is actually getting direct value for it and paying for a good or a service. In the case of CryptoKitties, for example, it's breeding a cat. If you breed a particularly interesting or collectible or visually appealing cat, and a collector buys it off of you, that's play to earn, because you put in the work, found the genes, got the cats together, and created the result. but it's still up to the free market for you to actually earn that result, because you need to create something that someone else wants. And I think that that's an important factor to remember for sustainability.
Yeah, and you've also got, as I mentioned, now investors, very strategic investors in entertainment generally, entertainment studios, and of course music, Guys Theory, as I mentioned, Warner Music Group. If you look at what's been happening with audio or music drops generally in the NFT space, they've not performed so well in the secondary market. And sometimes they've not even been selling out in a primary issuance. Where do you think, why is it different for music, and where do you think some of these drops have been going wrong?
I mean, look, like everybody, and everybody's going to look at Topshot and try to copy the bones of it, but you really have to try to capture the soul of it. And what I mean by that is, Topshot works because it's endemic at every level to the fan experience. The player on the court can think about Topshot as he's playing, and think when he gets off the court, say, "Hey, I hope I made a top shot tonight." The fan can collect top shots and feel a connection to their player or their team, the thing they're a fan of, that they wouldn't feel before. And then the distribution method for the content, whether it's Twitter with NBA Top Shot this, or whether it's Shaq or other commentators saying put it on the Top Shot, it's very endemic to the fan experience, and it has that natural flywheel where every time a game happens, there's it sort of brings new attention and distribution to Topshot as a whole, as well as those specific moments. Like the fan is thinking, well, I want to capture a piece of that. I want to own a piece of that. And so I think it's really important to try and figure out what's that same behavior for music. What's something that is going to tap into the artist, tap into the fans' relationship, and make them feel closer to the artist, and then also have a native sort of viral distribution or flywheel effect that kind of brings more attention to that, not just the drop, right? Not just the, hey, Snoop Dogg is selling X, but the ecosystem and the economy. What brings attention back to it in 5 years? What brings attention back to it in 2 weeks? If there's not a good answer to that question, then it's more of a one-time thing. And the way I talk about it with some of our partners is, are you interested, like, NFTs are kind of like websites. You just put up a .com, you put up an NFT. Are you interested in just putting out like one post, like a blog post, and never touching it again? You can imagine the effect of that, right? You build a website and you just put it out there and it's not interactive. People like it, but eventually it gets boring. Whereas if you build a ecosystem, like if you build a Facebook page that you're interacting with your community, or if you build a website that has years of content planned that keeps people coming back to that site and engaging with it in a new way, that's sort of completely different. And I think people are going to start seeing the difference between a one-time thing versus an ongoing effort.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point around how integrated is it to the overall fan experience. I think that immediately would click in a lot of people's minds, that this isn't just something you push out as an afterthought or as a quick money grab, but it becomes integral to the experience of music or concerts or whatever it may be. And I know it's really important to you that despite you working with all these big brand franchises, when you're talking about flow, that you're still also about empowering independent artists or creators. And I think that's increasingly important now. Most can't get on Nifty Gateway, right? Even if you're a major celebrity, there's still a waiting list of several months. So could you talk us through how you're going to fulfill on that commitment to the independent artist or creator?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the coolest part of this technology, is not only is it a way for brands to connect with their fans, but it's a way for any creator of any size to connect with any community of any size, whether it's 10 people or 10 million people. How we're looking at it is we want to partner with developers that are building the kinds of platforms that enable creators to just create. So we don't think every single artist should have their own version of Nifty Gateway, for example. That doesn't make much sense. But at the same time, this concept of these gatekeeper platforms that maybe know less about the fan than the artists themselves, kind of picking and choosing and being the economic decision makers also doesn't seem right. And so, what we've been trying to do is work with people, who are looking at this sustainably. They're not trying to do a drop in 2 weeks and take out millions of dollars and then forget about it. They want to kind of create something that lasts. And then we want to help them do it on their own domains, with their own communities, in a way that their fans will understand, right? If you're a Justin Bieber fan, you see him post something on Instagram, you follow that link, you kind of expect it to go in a sort of Justin Bieber environment, right? You're not expecting to get hit by a crypto startup or something. Even the word NFT, right? You don't see that on NBA Topshot, because that's not what an NBA fan expects when they go wanting to buy an NBA collectible. They expect NBA. And so we really want to help. So we're working with a number of entrepreneurs, and we really want to work with many, many more who have this mindset of how do we help creators connect with their fans directly, and what do the tools look like. Long story short, we are helping a lot of creators kind of with one-on-one advice on how they should think about their communities. But the bigger thing is we're working with entrepreneurs that aren't thinking about this as, hey, we want to build yet another gatekeeper, but we want to build tools to empower creators and make all of this stuff as easy for them as spinning up a Facebook page or spinning up a Shopify store. And so those are the kinds of products we also want to sort of back and help accelerate, because the internet didn't sort of start compounding until there were these tools that not everybody had to understand every layer of the stack in order to create a new experience for their communities.
Yeah, and I guess, this is also true for, say, Gucci, right? I know you're looking at working with a lot of digital fashion brands. Luxury brands notoriously want to control the retail experience, and so they're definitely not going to want to do a digital wearable in a random market which has a mix of collateral, and they lose control of that whole experience. So I think not only does that sound really cool for the long tail of creator, but I think control of retail experience is going to be important there too. So let's talk about the markets component. And I know off air you said, you might not have a better view on this than anybody else necessarily. I don't think that's necessarily going to be true, but I do buy that, we're all short on answers at the moment. It's all new, and who knows how the markets are going to behave. But, obviously, and I'm sure you've been asked this many times now when you're doing all this kind of mainstream media, people saying, well, is this just a bubble? And if they are aware of crypto in 2017, isn't this just like, ICO mania? How is what we're seeing now in NFTs different to what we saw with ICOs in 2017?
Well, for one thing, I think you're seeing real products, right? Whether it's artworks or you're seeing sort of products like NBA Topshot, you can use the thing. The ICOs in 2017 were raising hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases billions of dollars, off of PDFs, right? Of theoretical concepts, where we neither knew the concept would even work technically, nor that anybody would want it. And so, but even so, if you think about all of those ICOs, several of them have turned into real projects with at least real functioning technology, and some with users as well. And certainly the returns have not all been negative either. Many projects have financially done very well for that. And we're still very early in this, so I wouldn't write off ICOs for one thing. For the other thing, as someone who's raised $350 million of venture capital, it is one of the most inefficient processes, and even for everybody, for the entrepreneur, it's inefficient. For the LP, it's inefficient. And so we should be encouraging new ways of capital raising, and new ways of anything have some negative side effects. But what we learn about crowdfunding, what we learn about what a more accessible funding environment could look like, where anybody should have access into any deal if they want to, or if the team will let them. I think it's a mistake to write it off. But sort of coming back to NFTs, which is your actual question. Look, I think NFTs are like websites. There's going to be billions of them. Most of them are not going to have value or interest to anybody other than the people who created them, or maybe the one person or small group of people that purchased them. And I think that's perfectly okay. I don't think the market today knows that. And just like in the late 90s with the dot-coms, people sort of gravitate towards the craziest things. But I think the quality will sort of wash out in the end. And NFTs that rely on communities that are long lasting, that have economic designs that are sustainable, and are sort of stewarded by teams that have a longer term mindset and have the funding to deliver on that, I think will do very well. But everything else, look, the number one advice I have for people is, in any market, whether you're buying a Mooncat or a CryptoKitty or a Topshot, make sure you have, like, if you like the thing you're buying, then in a sense you care much less about its secondary price dynamics. So I think that especially in art, that is super important. When it comes to sort of sports collectibles and things like that, I think they're much more, there's scarcity, there's sort of comparisons to sports cards, there's easier ways to value those things. But especially with crypto art, if I'm a huge fan of an artist, I want to pay him $69 million for his work. Who says that's a bubble? Maybe someone won't buy it from me, but then I don't care. I bought the thing because I wanted the thing and I wanted to support the artist. And so, if you talk to Metakoven, that's his view, right? He mission accomplished. He wanted to support the artist. He supported the artist, and he's happy about that. Whether he sells the result for $1 billion or never sells it.
And so, how much do you think the wider NFT market ecosystem is dependent upon the hits business? So, like, my personal perspective is it feels like things like Topshot are the thing that brings in new demand. It might be quite narrow initially, but as they then get familiar with the wider universe, capital gets recycled. They might go into different assets. Do you think that's true? Do you think that there could just be natural organic growth, or is it very much kind of tied to big injections of demand from some of the kind of franchises that you're bringing in?
Well, I think looking at the internet is the right sort of historical analogy, in the sense that for the next few years, it will be driven around big injections, because what you're seeing is new people coming into the category, and they come into the category because it finally makes sense for them for the first time. And then they kind of get bit by the bug, right? And they start understanding, wait a second, this is what people were talking about when they said cryptocurrency. This is what people were talking about when they said NFTs. And, I think there's going to be a whole new wave of people in every single new IP that we do. And sort of in every new category that people explore. That's why I'm so excited about supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs. So I think you're going to see that for the next few years, no matter what, is just waves of people coming in when it clicks for them. And then when it clicks for them, then they can sort of go and explore other things. And by the way, people who would have never gone and bought a crypto, Daryl Morey has a CryptoPunk on his Twitter profile, right? And I don't know when he discovered CryptoPunks, but the concept, like, or Darren Rovell, he's not into Topshot, he's into this game called Zedrun, and that's perfectly cool. But I guarantee you, Topshot gave him the sort of mental framework to even notice Zedrun, right? And Zedrun's been around for years. And so that it will continue happening, and it's magic, and I'm super excited about it. What I think will happen, 3-4 years down the line, and by the way, crypto will mature much faster than the internet because it's all software, no hardware. As in, no hardware improvements are necessary to deliver crypto to billions of people. Only software improvements are necessary. So once we get to that level of maturity where hundreds of millions of people have crypto wallets, know what crypto applications are, understand NFTs, maybe have participated in governance and these things, then you'll see much more sort of dynamics that we see now in the web, where new products do sort of shoot up very quickly because there's huge global connectivity, but it's less spillover because everybody's already really busy and is already spending 100% of their time in these, today it's in social networks, tomorrow it'll be in crypto networks. And so you'll see less volatility, but I think it's to be expected for the next, half a decade at least.
And you mentioned social networks as a comparison. Obviously that defined Web 2. If you agree that this is Web 3, to what extent do you think NFTs represent a kind of native social layer to the internet. Like beyond the things that we're collecting, they actually represent socialness and a form of social media.
Yeah, I mean, I see NFTs as the atomic, as the sort of information packets. They're the posts and the likes and the, maybe the likes and stuff are sort of wrapped around them, but they're more analogous to the atomic units that flow in the ecosystem rather than the ecosystem as a whole. And I think that's also another thing that people are gonna think differently of. Right now, everybody starts by focusing on the token. And just like everybody started with focusing on the .com, right, the website. But I think what people will focus on years down the line is what's the application in which the information lives, right? And the product is for exchanging information, great. But how does it look like? And should it look like a marketplace, or should it look like a game, or should it look like a social network, or should it look like an app store, or should it look like any one of those things based on which what sort of vertical you're attacking? I think is going to be the reality is, there are going to be NFTs that are not collectibles, and that's okay. They're more access keys, or they're more mementos, or things that I earn and are matter to me and I want to keep forever, but maybe won't have secondary marketplace value. At the same time, there will be more and more of these like ultra collectible, rare, unique assets, whether digital or physical, and we're using their sort of certificate of authenticity as an on-chain asset. That's not all it is, and people are conflating all of these things and saying, oh, NFTs are just one thing and it's about digital art, but it's just a sort of a technological primitive that we can use in different ways. And
yeah, I mean, I think the whole thinking of NFTs in the context of marketing and loyalty and CRM is massively overlooked at the moment, and there's probably a whole another 40 minutes of conversation that sadly we don't have. I wish we did, but I want to be conscious of your time. So finally, could you tell us what we can expect from Flow in the short to midterm, what's on the horizon? And then also, you mentioned your venture arm earlier, the types of things that you're looking to invest in. We've got lots of entrepreneurs that are dialing into this, thinking about their next startup, and clearly aligning that to the possibilities of Flow, and then also you as a potential strategic partner is going to be very important to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sort of back to front, look, like we want to help entrepreneurs and invest in them, but the biggest way I can also help is just navigating the fundraising process, right? And at this point, we've talked to 400 plus investors, have 100 of them on our cap table, and my kind of mission as a CEO is helping other CEOs and bringing more transparency, because the VCs are all texting and back channeling on the back end, right? And so that's sort of my offer to all your listeners and viewers, and we're going to figure out better ways to sort of share this knowledge and kind of create a community of CEOs, and let's work together on that, because you have one of the best already. So that's one thing. In terms of Flow, nobody really understands Flow blockchain yet. Everybody assumes that people still come into our Discord and ask, is this an ERC20 token? Is it on Uniswap, right? Like, people don't understand Flow is it's a net new piece of technology. It's doing something that we think none of the other blockchains can even evolve to do, much less do today. And we're still sort of somewhat flying under the radar, in the sense of there's hundreds of developers working on different parts of Flow, building application layer things, building middleware infrastructure, all of these pieces. The documentation is not all perfect yet. The code is all open source, and people are working on SDKs, contributing to the core protocol, all of these things. And so we want, we think the community can handle help from all sides of it. And what we're trying to do is engage with folks that are more focused on the protocol side of things, usability, developer tools, and ways for developers to on-ramp onto Flow better. And those folks we're working with, both through ecosystem partnerships, Flow grants, that sort of thing, as well as direct investments. And you might have seen we just announced a big partnership with Alchemy, who's going to be part of the API layer of Flow. But there's we need to create a whole consumer application stack. And when a modern consumer company is coming to Flow and saying, hey, we want to build our game on your platform, they expect a whole bunch of middleware and minting API and then transfer API and wallet API and read API. and they need, and so those are all opportunities for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, I know several of the startups that are coming through in our accelerator cohorts in discussions with you, already working with you, and there's a lot of excitement about the possibilities that Flow unlocks. So definitely looking forward to collaborating with you further on that from an ecosystem perspective. Roham, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. I can't wait to see in another 10 months' time where you're at, given what you've just achieved in the last 10. And again, thanks for everything that you're doing in the space and your continued openness. I personally love following your Twitter account, the insights that you're getting, and sometimes the pep talk that you're giving to everybody who's on this journey with you. So thanks for coming on to Diffusion Live.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited to be part of this.